Happy Halloween, Magic the Gathering fans. Welcome to my humble abode. Please come in and make yourselves comfortable as we explore the deepest, darkest, most perverse catacombs of the Commander player's mind. This month, we delve into the twisted minds which can no longer discern pleasure from pain. Hellraiser reference. Watch your backs, because any of your supposed friends or even randoms at your very local game store could be land destruction players. Lurking behind the mask of polite society, you mistrust your family and friends. Can you feel the paranoia growing, making you flick your cards just a touch faster, that clench in your jaw growing as you see deathly white and blood-red mana being tapped across the table? What dark sadism motivates these players to act this way? Come with me to find out. If you dare. Why play land removal in the first place? The new Commander players among you, still innocent and naive to the perversions of the Elder Mages in this game, may not know there are some lands that are extremely fucked up. If you play CEDH, you will recognize such terrors as Gaia's Cradle, Cavern of Souls, especially with Lumra coming up in the metagame. These are even more threatening than usual. The more casual among you might have already been stabbed in the back by generous-seeming faces who introduced you to their favorite hobby, only to sucker punch you with an Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth combo. Even worse, you may have already seen your friends scoffing at land removal with the same disdain as a heretical demonic communion, only to come across someone playing Field of the Dead, and a perfect way to tutor it from their deck in the command zone. Even more casual applications of these fell and forbidden techniques include responses to common removal, such as leyline binding or ossification. Yeah, getting rid of the enchantment targeting these lands might sometimes do the trick, but enchantment players are tricky and may have ways to trap your creatures within these binds forever, forcing you to resort to land destruction. For the most part, we will be avoiding talking about effects like Smokestacks and Annihilator, which force you to discard your entire board, which eventually includes your land base. However, there are some effects of similar cruelty that you may come across even when you feel safe among your closest friends. Targeted removal. Land destruction is, like most things that people fear, generally misunderstood. As a matter of fact, I would bet that you are currently running land destruction cards yourself, dear viewer. You may just need to expand your mind to the possibilities that have always been in front of you, like effects which exile. Cards that can exile lands may seem cruel and devastating at first, but when the situation arises, you should be prepared. These are great removal options for any commander deck, casual or competitive. Ray of Ruin may look like an overcosted removal spell when compared to some spells that just destroy, but the ability to hit an opponent's sneaky vehicle or land, which is setting them way ahead, may well be worth it depending on your meta. Ashen Rider, Karn Liberated, and Archon of Justice each destroy any permanent of your choice, including lands. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, can also use his ultimate ability for repeated removal that is nearly impossible to recover from. Scour from Existence exiles any permanent at instant speed. It seems like 7 mana is kind of the going rate for this all-encompassing removal. If you play a land tutoring deck, you will also recognize this little Eldrazi from Modern Horizons 3. Sowing Mycospawn can get any land in your deck for 4 mana, and if you pay an extra 2, you can exile any overpowered land your opponents may have already tutored for. Speaking of Eldrazi players, these mages are no stranger to the shunned and terrible techniques which exile the land right from under your feet. Rise of the Eldrazi is an extra turn spell that should always end the game for you if you resolve it. The ability to exile 2 permanents of any type can allow you to shut off the blue player from playing counterspells during your extra turn. Desecrate Reality can hit anything with 0 mana value. Yes, that includes lands. And lastly, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger will exile any 2 permanents on its way down, as if cutting your opponent's library in half just wasn't enough. Destruction. Beast Within and Generous Gift will replace anything your opponents control with a 3/3 vanilla body. Yes, anything. Most people will not think to use this for a non-basic land that has been setting their opponents ahead in the game, but it can be extremely useful to upset a combo or a value engine, which includes a specific type of land. Terastodon is like a multiplied and more stompy version of this exact same effect. Sawtusk Demolisher might also look familiar if you happen to be a Mutate fan. Assassin's Trophy and Vindicate are also removal all-stars. Replacing anything with a basic land can be extremely effective in a format where players are often greedy with their land base. Spine of Ish-Sha really shines in decks which can reanimate artifacts easily. God knows you're not paying that 7 mana multiple times. Something similar that goes well in creature decks is Woodfall Primus. If you manage to mill either of these, you'll set your opponents back significantly. Just consider all of your options very carefully. Argentum Armor is seen in plenty of equipment and Voltron-style decks which can bypass that nasty Equip 6 cost. Oh no, so much mana, haha. Anyway, Arden, get in there! The purpose-made cards, which get rid of lands in a casual setting, are most frequently lands themselves. Ghost Quarter and Field of Ruin can get rid of a land, but you'd better make sure it's a real problem, because you'll be letting your opponents ramp as a consolation prize. The lands which do this at a better rate are Demolition Field, Wasteland, and Strip Mine. They blow up your land plus an opponent's. Fair trade, right? The next way to deny your opponents of the best resource in the game is to bounce it back to their hand. Especially if you can do this repeatedly, you control the flow of the game. For example, Tidespout Tyrant is a classic way to close out a game in Simic big creature lists especially, and you usually see it along Hullbreaker Horror. But the Tyrant is missing one critical thing that this card has. Can you spot the difference? That's right, the word non-land. If you can keep casting spells with a Tidespout Tyrant around, you'll clear everybody's board and make them start from scratch. As with all of these cards, make sure to target extra problematic combo-enabling lands first, if you see them. Capsize combo is something that the old heads will be very familiar with. If you can generate 3 mana or 3 treasures by casting a spell, then this resets everybody's board. But let's say you're hanging on for dear life while someone is using a Rogue's Passage to threaten lethal with a few different creatures. Casting it without buyback might just be worth it to save your life. Surge Spanner mostly finds its way into Merfolk decks, or more recently some fun vehicle and spacecraft builds which can tap it without attacking. Why did they let this guy have an upgraded version of Boomerang on him? I don't know, but it's there if you want to use it. Most mono blue players know Cryptic Command as the spell that reads, counter a spell, draw a card. However, if you're already planning on bouncing something scary, just keep in mind that the non-land clause is conveniently absent from this spell as well. MTG Rat Girl will return after this message. Have you ever thought to yourself, I sure do love this lady's presentation style and insightful reads on familiar topics. I just wish she would upload more often. Well, me too. God, I want to hire an editor so bad. Well, if you have, then I've got the perfect product for you and your family. It's patreon.com/mtgratgirl. For your subscription, you can get access to twice the amount of uploads, with such gems as a video podcast with my friend Jazz, an exploration of which orc looks the cutest, actual play commander videos with my friends, and so much more. And now, for a limited time only, you can have access to hours of MTG Ratgirl videos for not $10.99, not $6.99, but just $5 US. That's hours and hours of magic media and analysis for just $5 a month. But wait, there's more. You'll also get these fantastic perks. Name on video. Name it the end of the video. Show me, Pete, you like me, that's it. So don't wait, order now! Fuck, it's clipping. So don't wait, order now at patreon.com/mtgratgirl. And now back to MTG Ratgirl. Mass removal. This type of effect is what makes land destruction notorious. Lots of people initialize this to MLD for mass land denial, and it's annoying for the same reason many players are annoyed with board wipes like Sunfall or Wrath of God. It potentially makes everybody at the table start from scratch. However, while wiping effects that target enchantments, artifacts, and creatures are often seen as this necessary evil for protecting against certain overwhelming strategies, our similar cards targeting lands are so often house-ruled or bracketed out of the format entirely. Poor babies, it's okay. Mama's gonna find a place for you, alright? Unlike most other casual players, I don't underestimate ramp-focused decks. That's why I have 3 of them. I will run away with a win unless you deny me my most precious resource. So here's how to stop me. Armageddon is a classic for a reason. It's exactly the spell Wrath of God, but for lands instead of creatures. Simply worded and unilaterally destructive, just like a white staples card should be. And if you want both spells in one to suit your needs for any situation, Catastrophe is here for you too. If you've got one of these lying around and you're sick of that one player casting Open the Way for more than 10 mana, you might want to swap this in for one of your other board wipes. Ruination seems a little bit less painful because it doesn't completely reset the game state for everyone. This is a card whose usefulness scales very well with the table you're playing it at. Beginners will likely be mostly immune by playing a lot of cheap basics. Medium scale players will be set back, but not to an irrecoverable state. You know, we still play Rampant Growth and Cultivate. And seasoned players with the most venerable collections will have at least 2 of their turns wasted as they fetch for a dual land, only to have it explode in their face. Sunder is for when you really want to play Silence or Orim's Chant, but you're not playing a white deck. It is effectively a more expensive Ruination if you play it later in the game, forcing your opponents to discard a bunch of lands to hand size restriction. If you manage to pop this off without a board state that is sure to win you the game, then don't get too attached to your playgroup. Their poor little hearts can only take so much. Ajani Vengeant seems like the most fair way to play this effect to me. It's very okay value for the first 2 abilities, and his ult will nuke the land of just one player at the table. Just as our favorite Beastman's name suggests, if you get targeted by this, it's likely you did something to deserve it. You'll notice that I haven't included cards like Jockelhops, Worldslayer, and Cataclysm in this section. This is because you ideally want to be specific as you can with your removal, and use them exactly the way you would use any other board wiping effect. Make sure you're ahead on resources other than lands, and then deny your opponents the only advantage that they have, so you can quickly shut the door on the game to start another one. For this reason, my personal opinion is that Worldfire gets a pass on this rule, as long as you have a plan to take away that one remaining life from your opponents, instead of making everybody dirtle and effectively starting the game over. If you want to start a new game, you already have access to the scoop mechanic, so there's really no reason to include these cards in your list. Lots of torturous denial effects like Vorinclex Voice of Hunger, Damping Sphere, or Overburden aren't actually effective against the right players, in my opinion. Having access to a ton of ramp spells means that you can search for basics to get around the effects which punish broken lands, or use effects like Open the Way and World Map to get more mana than you usually would have with the one untap that Vorinclex allows you. It's just a fun little thing to keep in mind. Really, the play pattern you're trying to punish is people having ways to get the exact land that they need for the situation, whether that be a basic or a non-basic, to dodge the stacks effect that you have in play. Remember, people who play busted lands usually have ways in their deck to find a lot of different lands. Notable sacrifice strategies. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about things that make you sacrifice lands, but it's mostly because I'm really bored by the idea of listing every single Eldrazi with Annihilator in its text box. Just thinking about playing against an Eldrazi player could put me to sleep some nights. If you played Standard before 2025, you'll recognize Liliana of the Veil as a discard outlet that can ult to be a pseudo board wipe. Extremely reasonable pick if you're looking to reanimate some big bodies and punish your opponents a little bit along the way. You may be tempted to pop her ultimate anytime you can, but remember that it's symmetrical, and it runs the risk of slowing the game down without tangibly upping your chance of winning. Braid's Cabal minion is a similar sacrifice enabler that is only really scary because she's a creature that you can put in the command zone. Edicting your opponents until they blow up their own lands is a horrible play pattern that lines up with smokestacks. So if you're using her in the 99 to repeatedly sacrifice something, then she's kind of on par with Braid's Nightmare Reborn, in my opinion, or even on par with some Glissa decks that do similar things. Death Cloud and Planetary Annihilation are painful because they make you sacrifice lands, but they also serve the purpose of a regular creature board wipe. Very justifiable in any Rakdos deck. Plus, if you're running something like Jury or Korvold, it actively advances your game plan instead of just resetting the board. Phyrexian Obliterator and Michiko Kanda Truthseeker are like kind of stacks pieces a little bit. They feel more like playing a propaganda effect to me than anything else. It's just like, okay, link in the chain that you have to break before you can take this player out of the game. Which, it's only bad if you play into it, you know? You can't argue that something like that is the same as smokestacks. And others, creatures of the night, what beautiful music they make. Song of the Dryads and Imprisoned in the Moon have this clause that says enchant land, mostly so that they don't fall off of whatever you stick it to once it becomes a land. This has the really fun side effect of turning a pesky Nykthos or Glacial Chasm into a single mana-producing colorless land. You could also potentially take away a color of mana from an opponent who is running away with the game but is greedy with their mana base. Not that I'd know anything about that. Chaos Warp and Wild Magic Surge are removal pieces that you should already be running in your red decks, so every red deck can run land removal. These are great for any game with new people where you feel like you're kind of going in blind, don't know what you're going to run into. It hits every permanent type. Remember, dear viewer, monsters like me could be lurking at any game table, even when you feel the most safe. If you're playing these warp-style effects, you want to save it for the game piece that's about to win someone the game anyway, so it should never feel too bad to use it on someone's combo piece if that happens to be a broken land. Annex is what it says on the tin. Probably not effective in most metas. This feels like a hate card for sure. Only pull this out if you've got a green player like me in your regular meta who tries to tutor for a non-basic land in every single game. And that's it. All the land destruction pieces that you could easily run into at any local game store or even a game with your closest friends. I hope that I've been able to shed some light on this dark and dreary and taboo topic among Commander players, and a lot of casual Magic players too. Thanks so much for watching till the end, everybody. If you like this video, then you can subscribe to my Patreon, just like the nice people that are going by on the screen right now. You can also follow me on Blue Sky and Tumblr for more updates. Those are both at MTGRatGirl. And if you want to see more videos like this, one of the easiest things you can do to help me out is to like and subscribe so that you get the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe out there, you dastardly little land destruction players. If you keep casting spells